Good evening and welcome to the New Athens. You need to emerge from this COVID 1984 pandemic with the tools to create a new world. The New Athens, the blockchain think tank, brings you those tools to understand the chaos swirling around us and the forum to debate how a new generation will take control from the GoVidiots currently mismanaging our nation and our world with a breakaway civilization leaving us behind. Watch our Friday Night Lights live stream from the bunker on the New Athens YouTube channel for the best that is thought and said on the issues of the day. Ask not what the New Athens can do for you. Ask what you can do for the New Athens. If you like it, leave a like. If you like the content, please subscribe and share. I'm Lorenzo Mefsud, founder of the New Athens. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Action. Hello and welcome to the New Athens here in the bunker tonight with our friend Josh Scacheri of the Love Hero fashion brand. Welcome.
Hello, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for coming to the bunker. So we wanted to get together on the advice of Oliver, our producer. Because I think what you're doing with especially blockchain technology and fashion is really intriguing in terms of tracking and tracing all of your materials from their point of origin to the point of sale. And I think we're in kind of sustainability week in the news, so it might be kind of an ideal time for us to have a chat. How did you come to the idea of Love Hero?
Well, I've been working for various brands for my whole career, luxury and in high street. And I kept hearing the same words, you know, we want to change, but they weren't willing to change. So I really decided that, you know what, if I want to make a difference in the industry, I need to do it myself. And that's kind of how it started. And then from there, you know, for the past 10 years, I've been advocating for sustainability and better practices in the fashion industry. But, you know, I think it's now that people are really switched onto it and you know, really focused on it. Whereas 10 years ago, people didn't really know what it meant. So now it's the right time to push a narrative like this. And that's kind of how we started. And that's what we want to do, is just really push the fact that we can still do fashion and produce it in a sustainable way. Obviously, we are still making, you know, impact on the planet. But the more the reduction we do, the better it is going to be for the planet in the future.
So I looked at your materials and they look really cool. I mean, I especially liked some of your collaborations with 3D printers and the people making inks without the use of water and so on. And it all seems really, really strong stuff. I noticed that, I noticed a lot of people who come to blockchain as a field, they are self-starters. They are people who've seen actually some of these industries, I mean, don't really work in ways that really help people. And it's really positive that you're doing something about that. How did you begin? Was it this year? I noticed that you kind of set up from the fashion industry with some of your colleagues and said, look, okay, we're gonna make a change.
Yeah, it started. We launched 3 months ago. I'm on a TV show at the moment on Prime Video called Making the Cut Season 2. It's with Heidi Klum and Tim Gunn. 10 designers battle out for $1 million. So we filmed that last year. Majority of the designers on the show have established brands. They've got shops. I was the only designer on the show didn't have a brand because I was obviously working for another company. So after the filming finished, I kind of launched the brand on the show. And then when I came back to London late October, I had about 6 months to prepare the brand, the culture, the ethos. And it's something that's been bubbling up in my mind for years. I think it's a connection between what I've done in the past and what I want to do in the future. And blockchaining and being fully transparent was one of those things that I really wanted to do, because working for other brands, supply chains are very complicated. You don't know where you're getting your stuff from, your materials. You may be manufacturing in a factory, but then they're passing on to a smaller factory because they get a bit better rates. So, you know, you don't have that transparency with a big supply chain. So for us as a startup, you know, we have that capability of being able to really identify our supply chain and nut it out in a blockchain process. So that way, when we do grow bigger and bigger, we've got those foundations sorted already.
So the blockchain entity in question was, what was that? We had a look at that earlier, I think. They seem quite intriguing.
Yeah, so we use Retraced. Yeah, so they're based out of Germany. Once again, they're a small startup, but we really connected with them and we became partners with them to support each other and to support the fact that, we really want to be pioneers and push the narrative of being, a fully transparent company.
So have people worked out what that's about yet? I mean, have you had a lot of traction in the market so far? Or?
In terms of consumers, or like as we like to call them, our community, they're not very familiar with what blockchain is. And transparency, they're wanting to know where their products are coming from because they're asking the question, why is our price points a certain price point? We use all sustainable and certified fabrics, so they're certified by GOTS. And that's
organic cotton.
Organic cotton. Our viscose is traceable back to the farm, and they're all certified and repurposed, forests. So we have to put the hard work into nutting out the supply chain, but it costs us a lot of money too. So our customers do want to know why that is, and then giving them the full transparency and the journey. And when you show them on the website, when you tap onto a product and it shows you those icons and traces back all the way to the farm or to the forest, they're pretty intrigued by that. In terms of bigger brands, BOF just did an article a couple of weeks ago that the likes of H&M and I think LMVH or Karen Group have just started their blockchain process. So the fact that we're a small company and we've kind of ahead of the big luxury brands,
that's great.
It gives you a pat on the shoulder to say, we're doing good things, even though we may not get the recognition for it, but at least I know that I'm doing good by my company and by the people that work with me, because sustainability is all about planet and people.
Yes, I think so. And I think we're really at a time where we can see a couple of paths for technology. We see a lot about technology that exploits people, technology that takes control over people. We've seen it a lot with the lockdowns. We've seen it a lot with what the social media platforms are doing, and then we have blockchain, which kind of has a community of people who are interested in freedom, and people who are interested in the self-actualization of people and giving people choices. And I think that what we've had a lack of perhaps in recent years is informed choices. And so being able to take an industry like yours and say, right, we're going to do it right. We're going to look at the origins of the products. We're going to look at the working conditions of the people in the supply chain as well, I'm sure. So I noticed that your manufacturing was in Turkey, was in Portugal. Is that an ethical move?
It is an ethical move, and it isn't. I guess I've already got relationships with a lot of suppliers because I've been in this for 20 years. Portugal is a great place for sustainable factories, really green factories who are certified. They're really pushing the mark in Europe. Turkey has got great factories too. Maybe they're a little bit behind in terms of Portuguese, in terms of the certification levels. But we work with GOT certified factories only, and small run factories by family owned operators. So there that their workers are getting treated right because they're family.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our method of working with sourcing. Yeah. And then once we find suppliers that we work with, we stay with them. We're not like we swap and change just for price, because we want to develop the relationship up with the suppliers and our manufacturers for longevity, and that's key too for us.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so we're in a position where most of the industry in the West has been evacuated to China over decades, and now we've seen in recent years some kind of awareness of that and the consequences of that for many people across the West. You don't have jobs, you don't make anything anymore. Huddersfield and the Midlands used to be full of wool manufacturing, making cloth, making clothes. Now, of course, there's no such thing, and so perhaps there's a moment of reinvigorating industry now and saying, look, okay, let's do things for ourselves. Let's make things for ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what you like, you can then design. You can design what it is that you think best embodies that,
and share it with people.
Mhm.
And that's quite a positive view, and then a positive view of tech on top of that, because I don't know if you were following. I mean, what really interested me in the past week was Facebook changing its name.
Yeah.
Now, of course, some marketing department somewhere has decided that it's rather toxic after all of the different kinds of propaganda, people like live streaming atrocities and terrorist acts and free speech debates and so on. The name, plus the Karens kind of just taking it over, and all the young people have moved on to other social media platforms. They clearly want to junk that branding now, and you're a branding guy, you understand. And so yeah, I saw something which I thought was quite interesting, Oliver, and I saw this the other day on BBC. And it was called Meta. It was that their announced. Facebook changed its name to Meta in major rebrand. Now I saw this. Was it in here? No, it wasn't that one. Maybe it was in here. I think we had it on there. And sorry, wait a sec. Meta.
These are the parts of the audience really, really go for.
Yeah, no, sorry.
But just getting back to your comment about, like moving it back onshore, I think COVID has really made us think, okay, is chasing a cheaper price point from the Far East at the end as beneficial as we thought it would be? Because you got to think about the logistics, the back and forth, lead times, producing out of the Far East is 12 weeks, where you're producing onshore, it's a shorter lead time. You got less minimum quantities you got to produce here. Far East minimum is 1,000. So I think people now have started to realize, hang on, we should bring stuff back, making local manufacturing, helping the UK, bring back that workforce that it used to have,
Yes.
And you're seeing the surgence of micro factories popping up here and there. East London, there's plenty of little factories there. You got younger designers going there, getting their samples made on small production runs. So I think, as COVID was a bit of a bad thing for the whole world, there's good that's come out of it.
I mean, I think certainly in the past 50 years, the secondary industry, manufacturing and so on, is gone in the West, and actually the lockdown kind of showed us that all of the PR jobs don't need to exist either. An economy can just be getting food on the shelves, heavy goods vehicles, container ships, and that's and some hospitals, and that's kind of enough.
Simple.
And then everyone else can not work. And so of course then the BBC and the government say, well, we'll be fine too, but nevertheless you have an economy where nobody was really doing anything for a year, and nothing fell apart. Like, it's okay. And so now there's almost a question, so what are we for exactly? Since all these industries just sort of, it didn't matter that they were mothballed and shut down. And so perhaps the most optimistic, we could see it as provoking a set of questions in people. So what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah.
Okay, you were doing the rat race. You had a whole load of concerns that were forefront in your mind. Then you had this moment where nothing matters anymore. So what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And you've made a decision. You've made a clear decision to do something really positive. And you were talking about the uptake of blockchain amongst the public. Now, it's interesting. So when we were first producing ArtChain, which was our art token prototype back in 2016, we had this idea, young people, like I was in my sort of late 20s, young people will just latch on to they'll latch on to crypto. They'll start paying one another in crypto. It's fine. Like, there'll be just a push out as kids want to just trade with one another, and they'll get into crypto.
Yeah.
And that never happened. Instead, they got into TikTok, they got into Instagram, they got into Snapchat, they got into these walled gardens, which provided by a corporation of some mediated activity, which in the end is not self-actualizing. doesn't do anything for you. It's just you're just parking your IP that you make, all your videos and photos, back into a corporation and giving them all your advertising data, letting them see all your messages, you know, and so we were kind of stumped by this because we thought, oh, the blockchain revolution is just going to occur in the late 2010s, and we'll just be there. Okay, it's happened with the Bitcoin price. It's happened with the Ethereum price in terms of them being tradable assets and speculatable assets. But actually, we haven't seen that uptake of blockchain just happen organically.
Yeah. Why do you think that's happened? Why is that?
So, well, I think the PR departments of things like Facebook Meta are very, very good. I saw this picture of. Have you got it up? So this is the picture that that Facebook put out of what their future is, right? Now, what do you see with that picture?
I just see a continuation of being absorbed by tech, you know, by social media, virtual reality, AR, you know, still in the hands of these big corporations.
Yeah, I mean, I was horrified by this. I saw this picture. It is like Facebook changing its name, PR, blah, blah, blah. And then you come to this halfway down the BBC article. This is something Oculus have put out as propaganda. What do you see? You see a woman in an unfurnished property, like it's being renovated. Of course, it has to be unfurnished because if she walks around in the virtual reality goggles, she'll fall over the coffee table. So it has to be a bare room. And then she's there alone, interacting only with herself. Nobody's around, and she's totally consumed by the virtual reality world, and she's not living in any real sense. You know, she's living in this kind of desolate environment. And does she know anyone? Does she have friends? Does she know if her friends in the internet are bots or are they people? She probably doesn't even know. But this is a positive view of the future, and like that just blew my mind. I mean, I found what I thought it really compared to was kind of, it's something like this. I don't know if you saw Wall-E.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
And you know, the humans, they get into their stand a stair lift kind of computer chairs, and then they get obese because they're in the virtual reality world fed to them. And because they leave the real behind. And so I see there's two parts of technology. There's this and this, and then there's something like what you're building and what I've been building too, and that we've been looking at here at the New Athens in terms of being a blockchain think tank, in terms of getting people to ask questions about their reality and their future, which I don't think we're really encouraged to ask.
Interesting.
So, I mean, the other thing I saw actually was this, which if you show the this was, I think that's what I saw when I saw that woman in that picture. I think the little dots.
I think it's important for us to be able to use technology to help our lives or our livelihoods, but not to overrule it. I think that's the key. And I think with us, the transparency element is giving an insight to people who really don't really understand about supply chain or where things come from. And giving them that descriptive, that graphic sort of vision of, okay, actually, now I know where it comes from. So that's how much it costs, and that's why it costs that much. And you're giving back to the planet, and you're looking after, you know, your staff and your workers. So there, I'm going to put my money on the table and buy your product. So that's kind of, you know, the whole idea behind it. And I think as humans, we should be able to utilize technology to help us live a better life, but not overrule our lives.
Yeah, well, we've got your actions towards sustainability, and then we've got the debate happening in Glasgow, which is 400 private jets landing to bring the super rich elite from across the world at great carbon expense to come to talk to one another about how they're going to tell us we're not allowed to go on holiday in a plane when they have a private jet to take them to go around conferences and talk about sustainability. And then outside the walls, we have Greta Thunberg, who essentially wants us to live in tents and go back to a kind of medieval reality. She's not pro-tech. That kind of climate, that kind of climate rebellion movement is not saying, here, let's do nuclear, let's do tidal power, let's do, you know, hydrogen power, let's build clean technology. They're kind of more, they've got this medieval mindset of just just people should use less.
Mm.
But there's no real follow-on from that. We can live in tents, but China's not living in tents. They're building every city a week, and they're building them with coal-fired power stations, and that's why they're boycotting that conference. Because, well, so what happened before was that China would kind of sign, yeah, okay, Kyoto, whatever, and they'll do what they, because they've got control over their territory. They'll build a factory city that creates all the pillows in the world, and we'll buy them.
Yeah.
But and so they may pay lip service, but now they've said, look, this is kind of bullshit, right? We're industrializing. We have 1.5 billion people who want Western living standards like you guys, and there's no way that you're going to tell us that we've got to be the third world, or the second world, as they used to call it. And they're quite right to do so, but that's a real problem.
It is a big problem, mate.
And so what we're seeing is, at that conference, not a positive view of technology. We see the medieval Greta Thunbergs who say she may be being paid by the Chinese, actually, because they may have an interest in us having a whole load of self-flagellation of, oh, we do use too much carbon, and actually they're busy using all the carbon to make the stuff for us, so we just don't have the notion of supply chain.
Yeah. So I think Greta, she's someone, at that age to really push that message. I think she's trying to drive a message to, we can all use less. We don't need what as you said before, during COVID, we didn't need all the things we needed.
Yeah.
We didn't need the rat race. So I think she's trying to prove that point, that we can all slow down. I think that's what it is we've been conditioned by democracies and the governments and consumerism to consume more, to generate more income for the economy. We don't need it. I mean, I don't need any more clothes in my wardrobe. I haven't bought clothes for years. If I need a pair of pants, I'll make my pair of pants. For us as a fashion brand, we push the narrative of buy for life. We don't want you to buy every week or every month. We want you to buy things that are going to last in your wardrobe.
Vintage clothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're looking to do a zero inventory business model. Tell me about that.
So basically our sort of strategy, our pillars are about looking at how the traditional model works and then seeing how we can change that model in terms of how we produce. So 50% of our production is done by traditional methods, where we do bulk production and then we sell. But when we say bulk, we're not doing massive units, Then 25% is created on demand. So basically, we work with digital printers called Cornit.
Yes.
So they the most sustainable printers in the world. They're all pigment dyes, no water used, and they're creating a concept of on demand. So it's basically a customer will buy something online. We'll create the garment, the sample, which first we'll do in 3D render.
Yes.
Before we even go into a sample, so to make sure that the design is right before we go into a sample. Then we'll photograph it, the person can buy it. The moment they buy, it gets sent to the factory, it gets printed, it gets cut, and it gets made and then delivered to the customer within, a space of 10 days.
Oh, okay. So quite a quick turnaround.
We're trying, yeah. It's early stage at the moment. The idea is in the future is that we'll have micro factories all around the world. So if an American customer buys something, it'll get sent to a factory in America that we know.
Okay. And so you'll have partners there.
Yeah. So we're reducing the carbon footprint.
Yes. So instead of taking everything to the Suez Canal, which is what we saw with Evergreen earlier this year, where everything was backed up because there was a container ship that crashed in the Suez. And
Blockchain Labs says blockchain plus fashion, the future. Keep your eyes peeled for NFT fashion.
Oh yeah, NFTs. Yep.
So Have you looked at the NFT space?
No, but I have a friend who works in the art world, and we've been discussing NFTs for a while. And there are obviously Gucci and all that have started doing these NFTs, and I think it is also the future. It's just another revenue stream for brands.
Yes.
So for example, if I create one of my prints that we do in the collections, why not sell the print also as an NFT? That then the customer can have and utilize and do what they want with. So there's definitely a lot of technology that can assist the fashion world. I think it just needs to be utilized correctly.
Yeah, I think NFTs, as far as I can see, are going to be really useful for apportioning shares in projects. So if you have, let's say, a session musician who in the past would be given 100 quid and told bugger off, and then
Mhm.
they don't get any rights for their own work, much
Yeah.
as they produced something that was integral
Yeah.
to the track that they made. Now what we can do with NFTs is, I think, apportion some of those shares better and say, look, well, if you contribute to something, here's your IP in
Mhm.
that thing, and we can then distribute on a smart contract.
Yeah.
You know, okay, maybe the session musician gets 1%, but 1% of a big track is
Yeah.
a significant contribution to their life and to their art
Yeah,
and to
for
their
sure.
work. And that's, I think, that notion of fairness again, which you've discussed a great deal this evening, is really something that blockchain can bring to a lot of industries where that transparency has never occurred before. And it's it's this sort of the fresh air of democracy.
Yeah.
That you can actually start showing people, well, you can do things in a fair
Yeah, for
way.
sure. And I think people who do digital work should get the same recognition as someone who does a physical piece of work. You know?
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
It's creating something with your hands, your mind, your creativity. So why not be
Rewarded
appropriately?
So an ethical currency, that's where we're going here at the New Athens with a lot of what you've discussed tonight. Money is a universal means of exchange, and that's a feature and a bug at the same time. So if you could if you use your smart contract to add an ethical layer to the currency itself, for instance, if I'm a vegetarian and I transact with you, let's say you're my lawyer or accountant, or you drive a cab, or you sell me some clothes, or whatever it happens to be, or you sell me a smartphone, I pay you, and then you can take my money, which represents my labor or my capital, and go off into the world and buy a bacon sandwich and come back and eat it in my face. And I paid you. It's your money now.
Yeah.
It's not mine. It doesn't. I can't give you any terms because the exchange of money is an absolute exchange. We're not entering into a long-term contract. So there's a bug in money. Okay, it means we don't have to barter with one another. But on the other hand, I can't give any conditions as to what my money will or won't be used for in future, or in the case of the supply chain, where it's come from, because I've kind of got this narrow view of the financial world. Of course, blockchain can make us have a wider view in terms of looking back at the chain and seeing where the origins of things are and where they head off to. And so what I think is going to be quite exciting is if we can build an ethical currency, so that that if in a partner network, let's say the nodes are businesses like yours, that validate one another's work. Hey, how are you, Ishmael? Josh, Ishmael. If the nodes are in businesses like yours, in a community of validators, that each entity is ethically trading, then if I spend my Ethicoin, I could know that actually the supply chain has been worked out among the group, and that will be the guarantor of the of the validity.
That's great.
And so then, of course, if I make shoes, and I've got if I see there's this big marketplace of ethical coin people, and they don't have any shoemakers. Well, if I can get validated, then I can access this whole marketplace in Ethicoin, and they'll start, and I'll be the first shoemaker there, and the second guy will split that market in two. So actually, the incentives are there to create a kind of union of ethical industries, which actually can then cross-fertilize, because you can all regulate the supply chains together, even though you're in different, because you do printing. So okay, then what about the parts in the printers? You track back in that direction. So I thought that might be a really exciting avenue for you. And Oliver told
quite
us.
interesting,
and that's it's a way to create a kind of circular economy of people who are in different fields, but then can create a whole parallel economy of ethical action and ethical production. So that's something we've been looking at, and the way we looked at it was vegetarian coin, because vegetarians. There's 500 million vegetarians in India,
It's crazy.
and then vegetarians in the West are very high net worth, and so that differential of trade means that if you look at your vegetarians and vegans in the West, they want to buy ethical products. If you look at your vegetarians in India, they produce products. And that's one sort of angle that we have on that. But I'd be really keen to hear what you think about supply chains in that way.
I think that's a very innovative way of thinking, mate. And I think it may not be today, but definitely down the track. I mean, have you spoken to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation?
No.
So obviously the circular economy. Ellen MacArthur Foundation is
the yachts woman.
Yeah, so she set up ages ago. I'm doing a course at the moment. It's a fantastic course, and it's all about circular economy and understanding, how we can shift from a linear economy to a circular economy.
Great.
Okay. But also understanding that there is money involved in the circular economy, because obviously we're being conditioned by linear that goes from using, making, using, disposing, and then comes back again. So why do our phones die all the time for when we have to throw them away, or why does our washing machines break down for after 5 years, when back in the day they lasted for 25, 30 years.
Yes.
Because they've been
planned obsolescence.
Yeah, they've been created that way to break down.
Yes.
The EU now has just put in a legislation that any electronic company who creates a new product has to make sure that parts are available for the next 10 years.
Apple were fighting tooth and nail against
that. Which I think is a fantastic legislation, because it just makes us think about how long we can use our products for.
Yes. And making them, say, phones modular.
Yeah,
and so you can swap out the batteries. Of course, there's a whole sort of track, and we were talking about this in terms of democracy and in terms of people's autonomy. There's a track of making smartphones into tracking devices that you don't have access to the battery, so you can't take the battery out. So it's always reporting your data back to the advertising hubs, so that you can have, and I don't know if you've seen this. Whenever I go on social media, the conversations I've had in the room, they serve me ads. They are listening on these devices, and it's very hard to hack them. Like you can kind of root the Android phones, and you can get somewhere. But it's as soon as you give permissions to apps, they have a laundry list of permissions, and they want to listen to the microphone in your phone. And so in 1984, George Orwell had this idea that we'd have a TV in our house, and that would have a microphone in it that would be listening to us, and that maybe the street lamps would have microphones listening to people, so you couldn't speak under a street lamp, or you had to walk into the bathroom and turn the tap on, so the TV couldn't listen to you and make sure you were watching the great leaders make a speech. But now we carry these
around
and pay for them.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
And they've got 360-degree cameras. We know. People aren't aware of that because they don't let you film front back at the same time. There's a reason for that, because actually this is a 360 camera, but you've got to buy a 360 camera, which is a product. This is one, but they don't let you see that in the apps. They don't let you film all the way around the phone at the same time, because that's what they do. And okay, some of the time it's in your pocket, but most of the time it's not.
Yeah.
And it's surrounded by microphones. Oh, so you can talk like this on a loudspeaker call. No, it's to listen to everything you have to say. So now we pay for the privilege of being surveyed.
It's crazy.
And this is the next thing, is a blockchain phone. Because once we get a blockchain phone, then we can port our way and stop being the advertising cattle of our tastes and preferences being farmed and then shown back to us on social media platforms. There's a lot of scope for human freedom, and there's a lot of profit in it for the people who make the stuff, and then everybody wants it.
Yeah,
as you'll find, I'm sure. But it's a matter of getting started and having the willpower to do it, and finding people of like minds.
That's it.
I think perhaps perhaps finding other industries will be a way.
Yeah. I think, cross-fertilization, as you said before, and I love your idea about, the money, the coin. I think that's great, because, then you'll start to eliminate, you're putting your money where your mouth is, basically, and you're creating this infrastructure, this community of like-minded people spending it. And it's kind of like going back to that, like bartering, you needed a tailor. you're a painter. You know, you exchange your skills. You know, it's kind of similar sort of value.
But then in a marketplace, we don't have to have the annoyance of bartering.
Yeah, exactly.
You just know that there's a continuously evaluated ethical stamp.
Yeah.
That we all share with one another.
Yeah.
And of course, the proof of work can be in the validation that we do. Like if I do an audit of your supply chain, then I get paid. You know, then the blockchain pays out to me to do that audit.
Yeah.
And the same for you to me.
Yeah, for sure.
So that could be that audit function could be like the proof of work.
Yeah.
And where the coins are authored is in demonstrating. Okay, so this person claims these claims. Let's do the research. Let's work it out. Let's go and see.
Yeah, very good, man. Like that. Hit me up when you're ready.
Okay, fantastic. Let's do it.
What's next season's? What should I be wearing next season?
You should be wearing Love Hero.
So. Yeah, what do you want to? Where do you see the brand going?
Well, for me, I want the brand to be a successful brand, but for us, measuring success is about the measuring the impact we have on our planet, and becoming successful to a certain point where the business is turning over, it's paying for my mortgage, my family, my lifestyle. That's it. No more, no less. You know, and I think that's the problem in the world we live in today is. Big corporations and even in the fashion industry, you've got boardrooms, investors. You're focusing on the IPO, more. So
shareholder value.
So you're tuning out stuff that isn't really relevant.
Yeah,
there's no thought process behind it, and obviously you're cutting corners to make deadlines. Just to make money. I've worked for companies before where they're turning over $150 million a year, but their profit is $1 million. So I'm like, how does that work? You've spent so much resources to get 150 mil, but you're only taking away $1 million. I mean, that doesn't make sense, So for me, I want to have a sustainable growth in my business. It's like turning on a car. As soon as that motor runs, it's ticking by itself and it drives. That's it. That's all I want. And that's important for a sustainable brand, not to grow anything. Yeah. As long as I've got money to put it into the business, it comes back out. My input and my output is important, and that's it.
Fantastic. And so. Have you what kind of designers have you been working with? Is it all designed by you, or do you have?
Yeah, it's all. Well, there's 3 partners, 3 co-founders. Myself, Tanya, who's my partner, and then Heather, who's based in New York. So we conceptualized the brand. We designed together, me and Heather.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Tanya is our community manager, so she looks into community projects. One of the concepts in our brand is we'll never go on sale. So at end of season, of course, we'll have leftover stock.
Yeah.
Hopefully not too much. We'll involve community projects. We'll get underprivileged children or connect with charities like Crisis to get involved and to upcycle the garments, to do prints or rip a sleeve off and put a new sleeve on. And then we'll sell that product again at full price and give them a percentage of the
fantastic. So shareholding again.
Yeah. So we're not trying to recreate more garments to make more money.
Yes.
And then obviously now we're starting to design products with 100% noble fibers. So down the track, once we've got enough products in the marketplace, we can have a recall program where customers can send it back to us. We can then resell it, or recycle it into new fabrics. So we put it back into the loop.
Oh, great!
So that's the
really
process.
Good. That's it's really strong stuff. So has it gone live? Is everything?
Yeah, everything's live now. Yeah, we launched in July this year, so we've been trading for 3 months.
Oh, fantastic!
We did London Fashion Week in September.
Oh yes, how did that go?
Yeah, it was great. It's a small presentation. We had a panel of industry leaders in sustainability across fabrics and industries, in different industries. So we had one of our sponsors, Avalon, who is the first sustainable alcohol spirits company in the world. They blockchain their whole process also. So they spoke about how they're trying to change industry, and as we said before, it's crossovering over different industries. Talk about sustainability, how to blockchain and how to do things right. And it's not just the fashion industry, the music industry or the film industry, the art industry, are really changing now the way they're doing things because their carbon footprint is massive. So it's just crossbreeding and just really talking to other industries and how we can really change the way we do things.
No, absolutely. I think There was a great film I saw last year called Planet of the Humans by Michael Moore, who really trashed a lot of green finance and the carbon credits scenario, and this whole notion of big business going green.
Yeah.
And
They
the sort
can't.
of greenwash idea.
Yeah.
And if you look at their funds, their tracked funds of green energy, it's 1% solar and wind, and 99% biomass, which is just burning everything, rubber, wood, whatever, chop down a forest and burn it all. And they put that under the umbrella of green energy. So I was non-consensually put over onto Octopus due to the collapse of one of the trader. They were really interesting, actually. Those trader companies for the electricity and gas that all collapsed because the price mechanism failed, and they were just middlemen. You can't buy your gas from source, so you've got to go to one of these middlemen who cream off their profits. And simply, when the profit and loss became out of their interest, they just got out of the business. They don't run a kilowatt hour of electricity. They just buy it and sell it to you. And so we were sort of tossed onto Octopus, who we left a few years ago, and they say in their kind of promotional material, we are a green energy company, and we have 100% renewable energy. And that's the Michael Moore thing. They're doing that. They're doing the same Emperor's New Clothes fig leaf of 1% of 1% of green, and it's not the right green. The right green is tidal power in Britain, because we're an island and the tide always goes. Whereas wind and solar, they're built to fail because there's a cloud. There's a non-windy day. You've got a hunk of metal.
There's a lot of cloud in this country, mate.
I know it's not the venue for solar.
No. That's the thing. Greenwashing is a big thing, even in the fashion industry. And any big corporation cannot be sustainable. They can't call themselves sustainable. Of course, they can try and be more sustainable, and I think it's important they start to push new avenues and test things out, but they can't just transform overnight. But they are trying to get on this whole bandwagon of sustainability, all the marketing. And it's just like consumers need to really understand that it is BS, and they need to start buying more independent brands like myself and all the other great designers here in London, because the more market share we have, then that means the big guys are going to fall out. So if the consumers start to think about, because they're the ones who got the money. As you said,
they vote with their money.
They vote with their money, so they could buy into the small independent brands. And if you imagine a whole market just moves to order independent brands, the big guys they will have to change, because they're losing market share.
Hey, Josh, Gervais, Josh. Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Gervais is making a laser light
that's
project,
cool.
which we were discussing earlier.
It's awesome.
How are you doing?
Good, man. Thank you.
Welcome to the New Athens.
Lovely to be here.
Josh runs Love Hero, which is a fashion brand. And we're interviewing about sustainability because there is Lorenzo will explain it. There's a blockchain to do with
So you can track the origin of the raw materials that go into your clothing from their production to sale, and make sure they're ethically sourced. And so this is what Josh is doing with his clothing brand Love Hero, and it's real pioneering stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
So how can we support you?
Buy my stuff. What it is like, to give an artist a compliment, is to support them, in a small way, because it just makes them keep going, with their craft. So the best compliment you give an artist is to help support them, So I'll throw you guys a discount code. You can put it on the.
Fantastic! I'll send it out. Yes, absolutely. That's really kind of you. No, absolutely. Do you do custom designs?
Yeah, so we do made to order also. So part of our strategy is made to order. So we get it made in London in our studio.
Oh, great.
So I've worked in tailoring for the past 10 years here in London, working for big, luxury brands, Savile Row. So tailoring is my DNA. So
we've actually been looking recently to do some kind of merchandising, kind of T-shirts, tote bags, that kind of thing, sort of with imprints.
Yeah.
Is that something you can do?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. So we may have something, actually. We've got a campaign going right now with some, there goes some there goes some baffles. Top quality studio. we have a campaign going with which needs merchandise, and so
Okay.
I'm thinking, maybe
Yeah.
we should do some ethical. Then we can
For
sell
sure.
ethical merchandise.
We can source that for you, definitely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
No, that's really good stuff. So no, I'd like to see the progress that you make and come back on the show. We'll have another chat
Sounds good.
in a little while. It's been a real pleasure to
Awesome.
have you.
Thanks for having me.
That's Josh Scacheri, everybody, of Love Island, not Love Island, Love Hero.
Too many beers.
No,
there.
he's on another show. It's a fashion show, not that one.
Yeah.
It's a different one. Anyway, that's Josh Scacheri of Love Hero, the blockchain fashion brand pioneering the tracking and tracing of raw materials through to the production of clothing that you can buy from his brand Love Hero. And we will follow the future of an ethical currency with Love Hero and the New Athens, the blockchain think tank. Thank you so much for tuning in with us this evening, and we will see you next time.